Welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're talking about Kuromon Market. It's famous worldwide as, Osaka's kitchen. But what looks like this bustling, polished tourist hotspot today is actually the product of two devastating fires, an illegal pufferfish black market and just centuries of relentless urban survival.
It really is a remarkable piece of research we're looking at today.
Yeah, we are getting into some incredibly fascinating material. We're looking at a comprehensive academic and historical research report that unpacks over 200 years of this market's evolution.
2 centuries, that's a lot of ground to cover.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore 5 captivating historical stories of resilience. We want to uncover how these stories created hidden gems that you can still visit today as a tourist, and reflect on what this means for the modern evolution of cities.
Right, because when you look closely, Kuromon Market ceases to be just a place to buy food. It reveals itself as a living laboratory of urban resilience. We're going to see how an informal gathering of fishmongers adapted to sweeping governmental changes, wartime destruction, and, well, the intense pressures of modern globalization.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand the DNA of this market, we have to go back to its origin.
The early 1800s.
Yeah, roughly the early 1800s. What's known in Japanese history as the Bunsei era, between 1818 and 1831. The sources describe a spontaneous morning market forming.
Just completely organic.
Right. Fresh fish merchants just began gathering and setting up shop right outside the western gate of a large temple called Enmyoji Temple. And I'm curious, why there? Was it just a convenient open space, or was there an economic reason they chose a temple gate?
That is a great question, and it's crucial context for understanding the urban landscape of the Edo period. Back then, temples were not just quiet religious sanctuaries.
They were busy.
Very busy. They functioned as highly active nodes for population movement and commerce. The space right in front of the temple gates, often called the Manzamachi or Temple Town, was prime real estate.
Ah, so the merchants wanted the foot traffic.
Exactly. But also, temples offered a protected, sacred space where merchants could operate with a degree of implicit shelter from the chaotic, highly regulated secular city.
Like a safe zone.
Essentially, yes, which allowed these merchants to form a natural, organic community. Initially, this gathering was just called the Enmyoji Market.
And the defining feature of this temple, according to the research, was its massive, famously painted black gate.
The Black Gate, yes.
Which is interesting because that physical structure doesn't even exist anymore. This brings us to a massive turning point in the market's history.
The Namba Fire.
Right. In January 1912, the Namba Fire ripped through the southern part of the district. The numbers in the report are staggering. It destroyed around 5,000 homes.
5,000, that's just catastrophic.
And tragically, it burned Enmyoji Temple right to the ground, taking that famous black gate with it.
What's fascinating here is how the aftermath of that disaster played out. The temple itself never rebuilt in that location.
Really?
Where did it go?
It actually relocated far away to what is now the Higashi-Sumiyoshi Ward. So physically, the Black Gate was completely wiped off the map.
Just gone.
But the physical absence of the gate birthed an incredibly powerful, enduring brand. The local people, the merchants, they simply refused to let the name die. They just kept calling the area Kuromon.
Which literally translates to Black Gate.
Exactly. The symbol of the market outlived the physical structure that gave it its name.
Wait, so the government is dealing with this massive tragedy. 5,000 homes gone. Did they just let the merchants rebuild their old organic temple market in the ashes?
Not at all. The city government actually used the blank slate left by the fire to execute a massive top-down urban reorganization.
Okay, so they took control of the layout. They initiated a land improvement project that effectively swept away the old, messy, narrow alleyways of the Edo period. They replaced them with a much more modern grid system.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they built the wide Sanichi-Midori Avenue, complete with a tram line. This wasn't just about paving roads.
It was about modernization.
Right, integrating this once isolated temple market directly into Osaka's modern transit grid. And perhaps most importantly, in that exact same year, 1912, Kuromon was officially recognized by the government as a public market.
So it transitioned from an informal gathering of stalls into a legitimate, modern, commercial entity.
Precisely.
It's wild to think about how a disaster essentially forced the market into the modern era. And if you were walking through there today, The physical evidence of this reorganization is all around you.
It really is hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, so when you visit Kuromon Market today and walk under that massive 580-meter arcade, noticing how neatly organized the grid layout is, you aren't just walking through a standard shopping street.
No, you're not.
You are walking in the direct architectural aftermath of the 1912 Namba fire. And when you look up at the main entrance, it proudly displays the Kuromon brand. You are literally staring at a monument to a ghost gate that hasn't existed for well over a century.
It is a striking example of how spatial memory works in a city. The physical gate is gone, but the cultural capital of the Black Gate is stronger than ever.
They harnessed a memory to build a brand.
An indestructible identity, really.
While that fire fundamentally reshaped the market's physical footprint, the research highlights that an even bigger rebellion was happening underground.
With the food.
With the food itself. I saw in the notes that fugu pufferfish was actually illegal for centuries.
Highly illegal.
The sources mentioned that back in the late 1500s, the warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi noticed his soldiers kept dying from eating it during military campaigns.
Because of the poison.
Right, so he strictly outlawed it. How in the world did Kuromon Market get away with selling something so lethal if the bans were that strict?
It is a classic tale of folk expertise outsmarting official regulation. The bans were incredibly severe. By 1882, the government was enforcing explicit fines and detention for anyone caught eating or serving fugu.
Wow, detention.
Yeah. There was a brief exception made in Yamaguchi Prefecture in the city of Shimonoseki in 1888.
Why there?
Well, as the story goes, the prime minister visited a restaurant there, the owner bravely served him fugu, and he was so moved by the taste that he lifted the ban locally.
Okay, but in Osaka.
It remains strictly illegal, operating in a very murky, unacknowledged gray area for decades.
But the people of Osaka clearly didn't care about the law, because the research notes that by the 1940s and 50s, a staggering 60 to 80% of all the fugu in the entire country of Japan was flowing directly through Osaka.
It's amazing.
That is absolute black market mastery. How do they pull that off without a massive public health crisis?
Because Shimonoseki didn't yet have a mature auction market, the national supply naturally flowed to where the true expertise lived, and that was Kuromon Market.
The experts were there.
The middlemen there, known as nakagai, possessed the most advanced, meticulous preparation techniques in the country. Because the laws were so strict and the fish so lethal, they couldn't afford a single mistake.
One mistake meant death.
Exactly. Which would bring the police, which would shut down the entire illicit operation. So they developed an intense, rigorously disciplined apprenticeship system.
You had to earn your way in.
You didn't just learn to cut fish. You learned a life-saving surgical technique passed down from master to student. This specialized underground knowledge effectively neutralized the danger of the fish itself.
I just love the visual the source material provides for this era. Picture this. You're walking through the market in the 1950s and you see bicycles zooming around the narrow streets, completely stacked with these specific wooden boxes called torobako.
All filled with fugu.
All filled with fugu. It was this bustling, incredibly well-organized open secret. And because of this intense history, you can still see the remnants of this culinary rebellion today. Right now, about 10% of the fresh fish stalls in Kuromon Market are still fugu specialists.
That's a huge concentration.
It is. And many of these are not new pop-up shops catering to tourists. They are historic institutions that survived that gray area era.
That's the real hidden gem for a tourist.
Yes, exactly. If you visit, you can look for historic spots like Kuromon Minami, which was founded way back in 1875.
Or Nishikawa Singyoten, founded in 1956.
Right. When you order a plate of expertly prepared fugu from these vendors today, you aren't just having a nice meal. You are partaking in what was once a deadly, illegal act of culinary rebellion.
It perfectly illustrates how a market can act as a technical fortress. They professionalized something the government deemed too dangerous, and by doing so, they preserved a cornerstone of Osaka's culinary identity.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because these high-level skills weren't just for everyday folks wanting to risk their lives for dinner. The research details how Kuromon Market acted as a literal combat supply base for professional chefs. Yes, the Itame, the elite chefs working in the high-end Minami district, which was famous for its highly exclusive traditional dining and entertainment houses.
Those chefs had practically unreasonable standards for their ingredients.
Now, if you can imagine.
They needed the absolute best summer hamo pike conger and the most perfect winter fugu. They didn't go to the market looking for a bargain. They went looking for perfection.
And they went every day, right?
Every single morning. They personally visited Kuromon to source it. It was a daily battle of wits and quality between the chefs and the fishmongers.
That brings up a huge question for me. In 1931, the city of Osaka opened these massive, modern, central wholesale markets.
Right.
Logically, a smaller private market like Kuromon should have been absolutely crushed by the scale and efficiency of those new state-backed giants. Why did Kuromon survive that?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to a fundamental business logic. Artisanal curation versus mass supply.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Central wholesale markets are designed for volume, homogenization, and logistics. They move massive amounts of standard goods efficiently. Kuromon survived and thrived because it operated on hyper-specialized quality and deep personal trust.
The chefs trusted the Nakagai.
It was a rigorous business-to-business or B2B relationship built over decades. The Nakagai and Kuromon were curating the absolute top-tier individual items that the central market simply couldn't consistently provide to an elite chef.
They weren't just selling fish. They were essential partners in the restaurant's success.
Without a doubt.
And the physical evidence of this deep B2B symbiosis is another thing hiding in plain sight for you today. While most tourists are understandably distracted by the flashy street food and giant crab legs, you really want to look closely at the dry goods stores.
The dry goods stores are fascinating.
There are shops like Kazaya, founded in 1897. Historically, stores like this didn't just sell standard ingredients off the shelf.
No, they offered bespoke services.
Right. They created highly customized secret ratios of bonito flakes and kelp for specific restaurants, so those chefs could make their signature dashi, their soup stock.
That is a phenomenal example. A specific ratio of kelp to bonito literally creates the foundational flavor profile for a restaurant.
It's the DNA of their menu.
The dry goods merchant wasn't just a supplier, they were a co-creator of that restaurant's culinary identity.
So if you want to see the real heartbeat of the market, look past the crowds taking selfies and spot the professional chefs who are still quietly sourcing their elite custom ingredients in the exact same way they have for over a century.
It adds a layer of professional authenticity that persists just beneath the surface of the modern tourist experience.
Speaking of that modern tourist experience, we need to talk about how Kuromon transitioned into the global hub it is today. And that transition was born out of yet another total destruction.
The war.
Yeah. We talked about the 1912 fire, but in March 1945, during the World War II fire bombings, the market was turned to absolute ashes again.
Almost all of the wooden structures were obliterated, but the recovery this time wasn't driven by a government land improvement project.
It was the locals.
It was astonishingly fast, and it was driven entirely by the Kuromon Nakama, the market comrades.
The Kuromon Nakama. These surviving merchants rapidly banded together, set up temporary stalls in the burned-out ruins, and essentially built a massive life-saving black market.
Out of sheer necessity.
They leveraged their old pre-war supply networks to pull desperately needed food into a starving post-war Osaka. By 1948, this raw survival effort had formalized into an official union. They literally fed their community back to life.
But survival in the mid-20th century didn't guarantee survival in the 21st.
Things changed again.
As we moved into the 2010s, Kuromon faced an entirely new kind of existential threat, one that couldn't be fought with a rebuilding effort. They were hit with a rapidly aging local population and the sheer convenience of modern supermarkets.
People just stopped shopping locally as much.
The traditional customer base, the local housewives, and the sheer volume of neighborhood chefs was shrinking rapidly. To survive, Kuromon had to adapt once again, and it pivoted heavily.
To tourism.
It transformed itself into a destination for inbound global tourism.
And that pivot birthed the massive tabariki culture you see today. The culture of walking and eating. As a visitor, you can enjoy this incredible fusion of historical resilience and modern convenience.
It's very vibrant now.
Very. You can look out for Niku no Kobeya, founded in 1930, which evolved from a neighborhood wholesale butcher into a place serving incredible Kobe beef skewers right on the street.
Or New Dalny.
Oh yeah, New Dalny, founded in 1948, where you can taste the exact style of post-war Osaka curry that helped comfort a rebuilding city. The market has even built an 80-person rest center with multi-language support to handle the massive international crowds.
However, it is crucial that we look at this modern evolution objectively, as the researchers do. Our sources provide a very necessary critical reflection on this 21st century pivot.
It wasn't entirely smooth.
Academically, this transition is viewed as a sharp conflict between the marketplace as life space versus the marketplace as consumption space.
That sounds a lot like the classic gentrification controversy we see in major cities all over the world. What does that actually mean for the locals who have lived around Kurome for generations?
It means a profound disruption of their daily lives. The transition to a tourism-focused model has brought undeniable economic prosperity to the stall owners, but it has also led to skyrocketing prices, often referred to as tourist prices.
Right, the locals get priced out.
Think about it from a local perspective. When your neighborhood butcher pivots from selling affordable cuts of pork for a family dinner to selling high-margin Wagyu beef skewers to tourists, where do you buy your groceries?
You have to go somewhere else.
The sources highlight that this shift has alienated the traditional local housewives and the local chefs who can no longer afford to treat Kuromon as their daily supply base.
That makes sense.
There is a tangible, documented friction between preserving a local, lived-in community and catering to a transient, global consumer base. We aren't here to judge which economic model is right or wrong, but the research makes it clear that this tension is a very real, very complex part of Kuromon's current identity.
It is a messy reality. And honestly, the history itself is messy. The sources even point out that historians debate the true origins of the market.
There's some disagreement, yes.
While the official brand story focuses heavily on the Enmuji Temple and the Black Gate, some academic researchers analyze old maps and argue the market actually started in the neighboring Nagaracho area.
And the wartime records are sparse.
Exactly. Because of the 1945 fire bombings, there is a massive lack of official records from the WWII era, leaving parts of how the market operated during the war a total mystery. We are really dealing with a space where memory, myth, and commerce all blend together.
Which is exactly why this kind of deep historical research is so compelling. It forces us to look past the glossy tourist brochures and grapple with the fascinating reality of how urban spaces actually evolve.
So what does this all mean? When we look at 200 years of devastating fires, illegal pufferfish, intense chef rivalries, and modern gentrification, what is the ultimate takeaway?
The researchers synthesized this incredible history into what they called the Kuromon model. It rests on three core pillars.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the inheritance of spaces and symbols. A market can lose its physical landmarks like a giant black gate, but if it harnesses that memory, it can build an indestructible brand.
The Ghost Gate.
Exactly. Second, professionalism as a moat. Kuromon survived against massive, state-backed central markets because of its specialized elite knowledge. The fugu masters and the dashi experts.
They had skills you couldn't mass produce.
Their artisanal skill was an economic shield that volume couldn't beat. And third, pragmatic adaptation.
The pivots.
From a quiet temple market to a chaotic black market to a highly polished global tourist hub, the market's survival relied on its willingness to shed its old identity the moment it no longer served the present reality.
And why should you, the listener, care about this? Because the next time you visit a bustling tourist market, whether it's in Osaka or London or Mexico City, you'll realize that you aren't just looking at food stalls.
There's a whole world underneath.
Beneath the skewers of meat, the bright signs, and the matcha ice cream lies a hidden, deeply layered architecture of survival. You are walking over the ashes of old fires, passing through historic legal loopholes, and witnessing centuries of urban history hiding in plain sight. Understanding those layers completely changes how you experience travel.
It absolutely does. And this raises an important question, something for you to consider long after this deep dive ends.
I love a good thought experiment.
Think of the philosophical concept of the ship of Theseus. If you replace every single wooden plank on a ship over time, is it still the same ship?
Right.
If a physical market loses its original landmark, burns down completely to the ashes not once, but twice, and entirely replaces its core customer base from local chefs and neighborhood families to a revolving door of global tourists, at what point does it become an entirely new entity?
Is it still Kuromon?
Exactly. Is Kuromon market genuinely still the same 200-year-old market, or is it a brilliantly modern commercial invention simply wearing a historical memory as a mask?
Oh, man. That is such a phenomenal question to chew on. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive into Kuromon Market. It has been an absolute blast unpacking this history with you today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.